Greetings, adult collectors. I am Crash the Customizer, and welcome to another modified Transformers showcase. This is my modified Transformers Legacy Animated Universe Bumblebee. Now, whenever this figure came out, I was really excited to actually own this because I never actually got the original Bumblebee. I got the repainted, what they call it, Elite Guard Bumblebee. And I don't even have any of the animated figures I used to have. All the animated figures I have either broke or just stuff happened to them, I don't even know. So, also with the original Bumblebee, he didn't really scale correctly with the other Autobots, really. And this Bumblebee is like almost, in my opinion, like a masterpiece figure. Because it actually is like so much more show accurate as far as size, and just looks a lot better. Now, I know a lot of people complain about the feet because technically this back piece here is supposed to be the foot. Now, I get that, but it really doesn't bother me, honestly. I mean, just for the fact to actually have an animated Bumblebee and actually have one that scales better, that really doesn't bother me all that much. So really what I did to actually modify this figure was I added the posable hands that I tend to make for pretty much every figure I own, so you can put them in this little pointing pose, remove the thumb. And how this whole assembly works is inside here is a little one of those small Lego tooth pieces. I just kind of cut it to the right size here. Come on, focus camera. So I cut that to a smaller size, and then I took the standard piece I used to make all of my hands, and then I cut it in half, and then re-glued it so it actually is the size of 3 fingers. Because I found that 3 fingers tend to actually look a little bit better for deluxes. To actually put in the hand, you put it in the place where his stinger would go. Because what I actually did here, so I'm going to pop this hand here off and I'll show you what I did. So I actually took out the original fist that went in this figure for his hand, because I found it easier to use to make the hands here using where the stingers went, but also using the actual hole that the fist went in actually makes the stinger go in more show accurately, because in the show his actual hand would become the stinger and it would look like this. But for the figure, so that I could have the gimmick of being able to combine the stingers, it would tend to look kind of like this, at this weird looking angle that didn't really look right, because then his stinger looks like it's bent. So that's kind of what I didn't really like about the figure. But then, like I said, using this as the way to attach my posable hands and then take out the fist, I had to put just a little bit of hot glue in there to get the size just a little closer, and you can stick that right in there and actually looks more show accurate as far as the stinger goes. So now he can go ahead and do his stinging and actually looks more dynamic and actually show accurate. So I also did a lot of repainting on this figure as well. So first of all, let's go ahead and put his hand back in here. So we're just going to flip that around, and just same way as the other, just kind of stick that into there. Just got to get it lined up correctly. It's kind of hard to do because this is a rubbery plastic. There we go. So I did a lot of repainting on this figure as well. I didn't like the clear windshields because that's not really show accurate. You need to have more tinted windows. So I just took a black marker and just kind of went over it with a little Sharpie. And then I painted his little boosters here. Now the yellow doesn't really match the figure, but I mean modern figures anyway don't really match paint, because you can see even with the chest here you have clear plastic and the paint doesn't really match here, so that's not a big deal for me. It was kind of hard to find a color that actually matched it perfectly. Maybe down the road I might find one that's closer, but honestly for right now I don't really care. Just to have it actually painted and actually have the yellow and the black on it like it's supposed to have. I mean, I know why they did it like that, because they want to make it like the original toy. And it's kind of weird, even the original toy didn't give him the actual color boosters, which is kind of weird, but anyway. And also, it's weird they even had the boosters anyway, for the fact that this is only in like 2 episodes. The first episode was where I actually got the boosters, and then in the later episode they like mentioned them and maybe used it. It's like, it's not even really that, part of Bumblebee, but it's still, the original figure had it, and then this modern day one still has it, but anyway. So here's how he scales up Optimus. That scale is just perfect, because the original deluxe Bumblebee would have been standing to right about here, Optimus's hand. While this Bumblebee actually has the correct scale, where he's actually smaller than Optimus, which actually is more show accurate. So this is definitely, I would think, the superior Bumblebee, because it actually looks like the Bumblebee from the show, and just kind of has the actual scale, so he's not like oversized. And we'll bring in some others here. We'll bring in my custom Megatron. We'll bring in Lugnut. We'll bring in Blitzwing. Those look pretty good together. And then last, and certainly not least, here he is with his buddy, Long Arm. And then here we'll do a little Shockwave comparison. He does scale pretty well with his fellow Autobots and Decepticons. So, to transform him, just like Optimus, you do have to take off the hands, but that really doesn't bother me, for the fact that it's kind of almost like a Marvel Legends figure, where the hands are like accessories and it's not really like actually a big deal to take the hands off. And that's kind of the thing with modern day figures, is being able to make the hand actually transform with the figure itself is become quite difficult because of how they make the transformations work. So I've kind of had to learn to actually just get used to taking the hands off, and it doesn't really bother me. It's just, it would be kind of nice so I can figure out a way. But so just gotta take out the hands, and then we're gonna take out his little boosters here. Transformation is pretty easy, but actually pretty satisfying. So we're going to open up these panels here. It'll become the doors of the car. Just gonna line them up with this little tab here like this. Line it up. And then we're going to open up his chest here, and then flip this whole assembly up like this. So flip his head in, and it'll line up and create the roof of the car. So then, I really like this leg assembly here. So we open up the calf of the leg, flip in the knee pad, we'll do that on this side too, of the kneecap, and then rotate this around, and then flip the foot up, and then collapse it up, and then you have the front of the car. I think that is a really, really cool gift, a really cool assembly of how they were able to make that work. So they're just going to tab these together. I do have a little trouble getting these to line up correctly, but anyway, so we're going to rotate the waist, collapse the waist in, so that we can tab in the windshield section to the front of the car. I'm going to line these up where they kind of go back like this. Line up the tabs so you can collapse the doors incorrectly. Bring it back. Line up the tab. Tab in the doors. And then we take this little back section here. And then we tab in these, which I sometimes have a little trouble getting this to tab in right. You just got to get things lined up right. I sometimes have a little difficulty with. There we go. There's one. There's the other. Okay. And also you can see I did paint in the tail lights. So I hate how they do that these days. They mold in the tail lights but don't paint them. I mean, is it really that hard to paint in tail lights? I mean, that's a complaint I have all the time with figures. They mold in the tail lights and never paint them, but not hard to do. So we're just going to take his little boosters. We're going to put them on the sides of the car. And now he's ready to go after Nanosec. So I can boost off. Now, the vehicle mode is a vehicle mode I do really like. I definitely prefer this over the Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, I really didn't get in. Of course, as I mentioned with Transformers, when it came to actually getting into it, I was introduced in Animated. So Animated was, of course, the first Transformers series I ever saw. So this is kind of the first Bumblebee I ever saw. And I do actually more prefer the Prime design for Bumblebee as the Camaro, but I do still really like this Bumblebee. Now, the one thing I will say that doesn't make a lot of sense is this is supposed to be a police car. And I really wouldn't call this a police car, because when I think of a police car, I think of a white and black vehicle, not a yellow and black vehicle. But in the show, he supposedly scanned a futuristic police car, and there was, of course, the other one that was drove by Captain Fanzone. So it was technically a police car, because it even has a little siren on the top. So, okay, I mean, if you want to call this a police car, I guess it's a police car. I mean, and it's not a bad design. I really do like this Bumblebee. I do prefer this over the Volkswagen Beetle design. And what I do like about this figure is it scales so much better than the original. Because the original figure was... They called it a deluxe, but really, in my opinion, it was more like a Voyager. Even with like Lockdown, for example, if you don't extend the legs up all the way, he's literally the same size as a modern day Voyager. And I mean, and at that time, he was considered a deluxe. So it was kind of weird how that worked. Really had some really weird like sizes for some stuff. And this Bumblebee scales a lot better with Optimus, and even with some of the older figures, it does work pretty well as well. So we're going to get Bumblebee back into his robot mode. So we're going to take off these boosters. Going to untab his arms. Untab from this section. Going to flip this up. Going to open up and separate his arms here. And then we're going to collapse these up. We're going to open these sections here, so it kind of gives arms like this. Then we're going to untab the roof of the car, and we're going to rotate it, or up, or kind of push it up. We're going to untab his legs. We're going to go ahead and rotate his legs at this point. Then we're going to open up the roofs of the car, or the hood of the car. Open up the hood of the car, rotate this around, and put his feet down. And then taking the hood of the car to make his shins. And then flip down his chest, tab it in, bring up his arms. Get them lined up correctly. Take the boosters, stick them on the back. And then take his hands, put them on the right side. So then kind of helps to hold this piece in place while you're doing this, because it's kind of hard to do. So just line up the hand, open this up, hold that in, tap in the hand. And there we go. Now I have Bumblebee back into his robot mode. I'm looking forward to them making the repaint for Wasp. Because surprisingly, we never even got a Wasp, which is really, really weird. Because we got the repaint Bumblebee of the Elite Guard one, which really, he never got in the Elite Guard in the first place, but we get a repaint of that. We never got a repainted remold for Wasp. We got Waspinator, but not Wasp. So I'm really looking forward to the Legacy Wasp, or Prime Wasp, whatever they're going to call it. Or change up the names. I'm going to still call it Legacy, because I think that makes more sense to me. But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to having an actual Legacy animated Wasp to actually have to go with Bumblebee. And of course I will do the exact same things. I'm gonna, of course, give him the hands and all that. But yeah, I really like this figure. This figure has definitely become one of my favorites, and to actually own like 2 animated figures, especially since animated was said the series that really got me into Transformers. It is really nice to have these in my collection. That's pretty much it for my modified Transformers Legacy Animated Universe Bumblebee. So if you like this video and would like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any guesses on what the next modified figure will be, leave your comment down below. Until next time, this is Crash the Customizer, out. Greetings, fellow Autobot. My name is Optimus Prime. What is your name? Bumblebee, sir. But most bots call me Bumblebee, because I'm always messing things up. I was even told to leave the Elite Guard for not being good enough. Yeah, I know the feeling. I wanted to be a leader, but Alter Magnus said I wasn't leader material, and instead made me a maintenance bot. You are more than welcome to join me if you like. Well, what does being a maintenance bot entail? Well, mostly just fixing space bridges. I don't know much about space bridges, but my buddy Bulkhead does. He studies space bridge mechanics. Well, that could come in handy. And if you join me as well, Bumblebee, I'm sure I can find some job for you. There is potential in you, Bumblebee. Thanks, Optimus. You're welcome. Now, let's see if we can find a job for you to do.